driving in Portugal. That's another pet peeve, or that's another reason why I did not like Portugal. The driving, you're gonna often. Okay, let's go back. First, let's start with the one gentleman who told me to be careful driving. Drive slow, honey, was what he said. Drive very slow. And I'm like, hmm. He said, because I was in a bar and I saw a man guzzle 12 drinks and he just got in his car and left. And I thought, wow. He said, so take your time. But he didn't have to tell me that, because when you're driving in Portugal, especially on the back roads, everyone, well, I'd say every day, you're going to see someone who crosses the line, almost every day. And they're driving fast. And I think it's because they need their eyes checked. Maybe they don't have the money, because they really don't have the money there. The average mechanic makes $8 an hour. They probably can only afford an apartment that's not $8 an hour, €8 an hour, which is close to dollars, maybe $9 an hour. The average Portuguese person can only afford an apartment that's maybe €200, which is not much different from 230 $230 or something like that. So they don't have the money, and I'm thinking that's why these people are driving over the line. Maybe they can't see. And the reason I came to that guesstimate was because when they get close to you, they always veer over, like, oh, I just saw you, I'm over the line. And they always get over. But I think, well, that is so dangerous. That would happen if I'm driving somewhere, probably twice a day, where they're over the line, twice a day, no problem. And then I've had people who said that somebody hit their car too close, was over the line, knocked off their mirror, or they have a lot of hit and run, accidents where they get into accidents. Someone got into an accident and the person didn't stop, but that happens everywhere. So it's not just something that is new to Portugal. It happens in the US. So, but the fact is that I think, if I'm not mistaken, I haven't done the research, Portugal is high on deaths by accident. And that could be why. Next, the medical. Oh, let's get into this one. Millennium. I had health insurance with Millennium, which is interesting, and went in for an appointment. And the doctor decides to take a personal phone call, and he turns into Rico Suave. So he's like, yeah, talking in Portuguese, real soft and smooth. I'm like, dude, I'm right in front of you. What are you doing? Another thing was, the examination room looked like it had just been installed. There was nothing, not even a Q-tip in the examination room. It looked bare, like something out of 1970s, maybe a state-run hospital where they haven't set up all the utensils. It's pretty bad. Next. Let's see. This one is interesting. This was at Koof in Torres Vedras. I had a tech take blood. So he puts a needle in, can't get a line. He puts another needle in. He doesn't take the first one out. I'm like, dude, take the first one out. What are you doing? Oh, and I almost forgot one more thing. In the medical field, telling you to take off your clothes without giving you a gown. I saw that at Millennium, and I saw it at a facility that deals with back pain. And these are men. If you need an x-ray, take off your pants and just stand in front of the x-ray machine. That was crazy. Or the person who was a young guy at a physical therapy facility. He wasn't a real physical therapist. He probably was trained, because they were all like young kids doing this. He wanted me to take off my bra and shirt, and he's standing there. And then he says, what, do you need me to leave? I said, yeah, I need you to leave. Duh. Come on, get out. You shouldn't have to tell somebody that. So that professionalism does not exist. And now, Koof, I did see it there, professionalism. But at some of the other places, no, and no. Also, I got tired of seeing these scrunched up faces in Portugal in the villages. The people have had a major hard life. And, recently, they were just out of a dictatorship in the 1970s. So that ended, and you can see it on their faces. They just have a hard life. And I'm very leery of living in a place where you come over and it looks like you have all this stuff, and then these other people are really struggling. To me, that just creates a lot of animosity. Now, in other places of Europe, I don't see that. Next are the homes. Okay. So this was a pet peeve. The mold, the black mold that constantly gets around your windows and your ceiling. And they just don't build homes like they should in Portugal. And people keep saying, well, those are the older buildings. And I think that's a bunch of crap. I don't think it's the older buildings. Um, they usually take a mop with bleach and run it up against the wall to get rid of the mold. It'll come back. But who wants to deal with black mold? We know that's dangerous. Okay? We know that's dangerous. Also, in Portugal News some years ago, they wrote about their quality of housing and how 60% of their housing could not sustain or stand up to an earthquake. And I'm like, 60%? That is outrageous. That's a large quantity. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? Seeing that you had hundreds of years ago, an earthquake that destroyed all of Portugal. And we know how the times are now with volcanoes, earthquakes happening in places we don't expect. I really believe they're next. And it's not going to be cute. Okay. So the houses. Also, you can get a sewage smell in your home, which is terrible. The sewage smell just comes up. It smells like you're outside of the sewer, and it just dissipates. And I noticed there's a truck that's pounding stuff in the ground. It's probably the sewer. I mean, their stuff is just kind of primitive to me. It's not functioning like it should function in a city that's advanced. And I don't see it, Portugal, as being advanced. When you go to Lisbon, yes, you go, oh, this is great. When you go to Porto, you're like, oh, this is great. When you go to the villages and in between, you're like, what's happening? So evidently you're not as advanced as we think you are. Okay. Is this a front? Are you trying to get more people to come here to add to your economy? I wonder. Next, food and food service. Okay, so everyone will tell you, honey, or everyone told me, honey, cook at home. Cook at home. I kept hearing that. I'm like, what? People just come up to you. The best thing to do is to eat at home. Okay, so I understand why, because I found a lot of hair in my food. And one time I almost ate a fly in my burger, which was interesting. I bit into it and I pulled it back. Usually I look at it before I do this, before I eat, because I've had some situations, even in Washington, D.C., where I was putting a fork into my mouth and there was a full roach on it, hands up, like he was screaming at me. So in Portugal, you're going to get similar. It may not be a roach, it'll probably be a fly. So this fly was stuck to the side of the burger after I bit into it. So there's a bite mark and then there's a fly right there. That is the norm. I got so tired of finding hair in my food and the sanitation and how people do things. Went to a butcher and he goes and blows his nose before he packs my meat. He ain't bother to wash his hands, folks. So that's another thing. He did not bother to wash his hands, and my family's always saying, well, heat kills. So once you cook it, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to cook that really good or either throw it in the trash. But man, I just cooked it. It's just a thought. It's just a thought after COVID. It's just a thought. What else with regard to food? Oh, good example. Went to Lourdes Mall, I think it's Lourdes Mall, outside of Lisbon. And there's a food court and there was a restaurant, Chinese restaurant. And a girl came to the counter, such a nice, sweet girl, came to the counter with sunscreen all over her face. And she was still putting it on when she came to the counter. So I asked her, are you open? Are you open? Hey, are you open? And she goes, yeah, we're open. What do you want? So I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And I'm like, dude, this is crazy. After she left and took my order, the cooks came up to me and said, she does this every day and we can't stop her. She puts sunscreen on and she goes to the front desk to take orders, and I'm the front counter to take orders. I'm like, who does that? Who does that? And my last two pet peeves about Portugal, um, I would have to say the people did not have too many good things to say about their own country. That I look at because I didn't hang around a lot of Americans, and I'll get to that pet peeve. Uh, the people didn't have much to say about their own country. One person told me that Portuguese, he was Portuguese. He didn't live in his village. He said, because they're so nosy and disrespectful. And they don't seem that way to expats. They seem very friendly. But you have to really get to know them because they smile, but they're not smiling when you turn around. Okay. They're rolling their eyes and they're doing other stuff. Because several people do that. Just don't even know them. I just smiled and said hi. And they roll their eyes. I don't think they really, really like foreigners. Okay. Could be a racial thing, but I think it's foreigners because someone told me a Portuguese person said they could not like foreigners. But this person told me that the Portuguese are very jealous, very disrespectful. Now, these are the Portuguese telling me this, and very racist. Okay. Now, I had most of the people I knew were not Americans, they were from other countries or they were Portuguese. So I did see uh, the smiling and then when they turn their backs doing something else behind your back. You see that it's kind of a fakeness that they think you believe. Also the staring, oh, that's another thing. When you're driving, they would stare at you because I'm African American. They would stare at me simply because they're not used to seeing a lot of blacks driving in Portugal. And I'm like, are you kidding me? In Africa, everyone's driving and they have nice cars and they have old cars and they have beat up cars. In France, black people had nice cars. But in Portugal, a hairdresser told me, which was really crazy. And I was like, oh, this is backwards. She said, you should be proud to have a car. You should be so proud. And I'm like, proud? Yeah, because you're Miss Big Stuff now. They don't see us with cars. We don't really have nice cars. And I'm like, oh, this is crazy. This is really crazy. Do you know in the worst parts of Africa, they have cars and they're black? Come on now. And the fact that you are Portuguese and black and think that it's special for you to have a car tells me where your mind is at. So that was another thing. Let's see with the Portuguese. I think that was it. Finally, I want to say is the last thing that made me really just tired of Portugal was the Americans. Now, in the US, it's this competition. Everybody's Googling, trying to find it. Since the internet, it's like everyone stays on the internet trying to find out what you have, what you don't have. I have more than you. I don't have more than you. Well, guess what? When you go to Portugal, that's magnified like 5 times because these people, a lot of them are from California. They come over, they have money from selling their homes, and a lot of them are from England, which I was shocked. They come over, they have sold their homes, and now they are like, I'm the rich one. You know, it's almost like a colonizer coming to a country and you're like, you're poor, you're the inferior, we're the rich ones. So they're buying up homes, they're selling them, they're telling you how much they made. I've never had so many people, black, white, mainly white, who would come to me and tell me, didn't I just met them at an auto parts store. And they would come to me and say, oh, honey, I had 2 homes and I sold one and I bought another one and we left this area and I have this home and I'm like, I don't even know your name. Why are you telling me this? That would happen a lot to me. I'd say maybe in 6 months, maybe 4 times. And I'm like, why are these people telling me all their business about what money they have? Or I constantly heard, oh, he has a lot of money. She has a lot of money. And I was like, what is going on? Or there's the other coin where you have those who want to use you. And this is something I don't see in the US. Now, in California, the people don't come up to you and tell you everything. They're trying to find out everything. In other states, you know, in the US, they're always trying to Google you, find out what you have, and then they get angry because they found out something good, and you wonder why the stranger is acting crazy on you. You know, the competition stuff, ever since the internet, love the internet, but it's made the crazy people and the intrusive people and the stalkers stalkerish, more stalkerish, which is quite interesting. So in Portugal, you see more of that with the Americans. And it's really interesting with on the other side, I was about to say is that you see Americans who they are trying to hold on to their cash and they're trying to figure out how can I manage this cash and use you too. And I met quite a few people who had been there for years, wanting me to take them around and show them around. And I'm like, why? I don't understand this. You should be showing me around. There were the ones who wanted to travel and share a room. I don't share rooms. Sorry. I don't have to. If I can't get my own room, I'm not traveling. Plain and simple. Because I don't know you that well, you don't know me that well, and I want to be comfortable. That's the whole thing of traveling. You want to be comfortable, have a good time. I've done that before, and it did not work well. And usually somebody is, I don't have this money. I don't have that money. Can you pay for this? I don't have time for that drama. Don't have time for it. Stay your butt at home. Okay? That's how I see it. So it was always something where they can't call you. They can't come visit you because they don't want to burn their gas out, but they want you to help them out some way. So I found a lot of people like that. When if I was having car trouble, if something was wrong, they never offer, but they need you to help them out with something. That was big in Portugal. And these people you hardly knew. It's not like in the States where maybe you talk to them off and on, they're a neighbor, you see them. You hardly knew them, but they figure they can, because you're an expat, they can come into your life and ask of all these things simply because you're in a different country and we need to stick close together or something. I don't know what it is, but that was a big thing, which is I'm so glad I don't have to deal with. I don't see it in other countries. I don't see that in France. Matter of fact, I see people wanting to help me more just on a friendly basis. What I saw in Portugal was the use. How can I hold on to my money? And maybe that happens. I found out with um, there's a YouTube channel. I think Cinnamon Spice had a couple of people on her channel where she was talking about the people who are expats and wanting to always get something from you. And I think they are trying to save their money. They're trying to spread that money and they're trying to see how they can spread it using you. Okay. They're not really friends. They pretend to be, but they're not really friends. And you can tell because they only come around and they only want something. They always want something, which is so different in the US because they would never come up to you in the US and just ask for something and hardly know you. But they feel that since you're in another country, they should be doing that. Maybe you should stick together. Maybe you'll help them out because you're here alone or you're here with somebody or you're here with your husband. And maybe you'll help them out because you are another expat or something. Just crazy. No, you're a stranger. Get out. That's how I see it. Get out. Unless we establish a friendship, a real friendship, is not going to work, honey. Sorry. You got to go. So that was another reason that I did not like Portugal because you find that constantly with the expats. Don't find it in other places in Europe. Everybody's normal. The people in other countries are friendlier. They're always helpful. Didn't find people helpful. I found in Portugal, they want to know everything about you, but they don't really want to know you. Okay? So that's really interesting. And that's my last one. So hopefully this has been helpful to some people. Remember, this is my own personal opinion. And if you have a problem with it, that's your problem. You can do a video and just put it out there and show people the true Portugal.